At the time I say this, I originally planned to show off the drawing portion. Well, that's hours of time lost because at that point I realized that I was wasting my time experimenting on paper and planning to record it later when I could just show off what I was doing here and now. That plan was to depict how it was done on paper and compare it to how it was done on a computer. Well, that's not going to happen anymore, is it? So, for this exact purpose, I'm just going to show what I did on a computer and how best to transfer that onto paper. The problem being is, I recorded on paper without using references. And that was after the first thing I suggested was to always have references. Well, here we are. We're going to make some references with this. What you see is me drawing a circle. I started with 2 lines to depict where the circle would be, the shape of the circle, each of its quadrants. So it still couldn't be a perfect circle, but it was a circle to begin with. Or an oval, however you want to interpret that. These 2 circles, the top and bottom ones, tell us the overall body shape. When it comes to males, the top portion tends to be larger than the bottom portion. And for women, it's the other way around. Except these states of being, these differences are subtle. Subtle, yes, but still present. Then I move on to draw the head. Same thing applies. 2 lines drawn in a cross format to help me decide the overall shape of the circle, the overall size. And yes, I know I'm cheating here the same way I couldn't cheat on paper, just bear with me. That top circle is, in fact, the head. Okay, what am I doing here? I am tracing the circles I drew with lines to connect them this time, and I'm doing this on a separate layer. That is, I'm doing this to see just how bulky the body would be, and thanks to me using a computer and not paper, I will have an easier time thinning it down later. Yes, I will. I will thin it down, because it's far too bulky right now, for my tastes. And unlike on paper, I can electronically edit the strokes here. Funny thing about Blender, I usually claim that they treat grease pencil as an afterthought at the end of the day, but also at the end of the day, I know my way around the program practically like the back of my hand. And given the help of a few add-ons along the way, there is no question, no doubt about it, I can make my way around the software the fastest. What you are seeing here is me drawing a line under the circle that is meant for the head, and then drawing 2 more arcs connecting that line, or rather, connecting themselves to the circle at the top. That would be the chin. And then I begin tracing. It doesn't match the correct shape, so I am electronically editing it to better fit the bill. I appear to have run into a bug of some kind. This normally doesn't happen, but apparently in Blender 4.4.3, the shortcut I use for sculpt mode, which is basically what I use to sculpt and smooth certain sections instead of the whole thing, we get a common error known as Python traceback. Well, as long as it doesn't crash the application, I really couldn't care less. This is the part where I start drawing arm lines. Generally speaking, I tend to use gesture lines, as you had seen for the chin of the head, to tell me the general direction of where the shapes are going to go. That way, when I draw capsules later, I'm not stuck guessing, thinking, contemplating, or otherwise wasting time. I will do the same thing for the legs. These arms need to connect somehow, and how else? Then through shoulders. Those are the lines I'm trying to draw next. The shoulders will tell me the outer sides of the capsules I'm going to draw for the arms and legs. No, I'm not drawing whole capsules for the upper arm. It means less for me to look through and maybe erase later as I go around tracing everything. For the legs, the upper portion is wider at the top and thinner at the bottom. Alright, let's start tracing. In a new layer, with the rest locked for good measure, I'm going to trace around the entire resulting object. That is, create the outer shape minus the internal mess. Time for hands. We're going for a generally rectangular shape to begin with. We'll round out the edges later. Gesture lines. One for the thumb on its side, and 4 at the top. Or should I say bottom here. Index, middle, ring, and pinky. On another layer, I start drawing tubes around them. Because even though we started out with stick figures, we do not want to stay there, now do we? Then I start drawing lines which connect those lines. And then I start tracing. In case you're wondering what I'm looking for, I'm pretty sure there's a shortcut or an option to join these strokes. Granted, I eventually find it just takes me a brief moment. But wait, why would I want to join strokes? What purpose would it serve me? Specifically when it comes to smoothing the edges, I can combine those edges together, the ends, for an overall smoother result. I'm in fact taking the hand, duplicating it, and basically tacking it onto the edges of the arms, the ends of the arms. I will make an addendum later telling you how to do that on paper. But generally speaking, it's like how you draw the inside of a body. You want to get rid of the internal edges that no one's going to see. And so in this manner, you want to draw lines connecting them and erase the internal edges. These are gesture lines for shoes. This is the only point in the video you will ever see me use shapes in an attempt to get a general shape for the shoe, because I had the hardest time drawing it. Simply put, I use a cylinder for the base of the shoe where you put your foot in, and then some sort of half circle shape with a smooth bottom for the tip of the shoe. With the problem being, I had a hard time figuring out the shape connecting those two shapes. The lines for it. Yep, shoes are the toughest thing for me to draw right now, even with information pertaining as to how. In the end, I realized what the problem was. The shape I used was inferior. The tip of the shoe and the top of the tip weren't exactly up to par. This is me solving that problem. Yeah, that ain't gonna work, so I basically decided to draw a front view of the shoe instead. Here it is, the grand total. The entire shape of the body, minus the internal lines. I believe at the end I do add a neck connecting the head to the body. You know, this hadn't been a real problem until recent versions of Blender, like versions 3 and up, but I used to be able to see where the eraser lines were, the the radius for the eraser shape when using it outside of eraser mode. I don't like this guessing thing that's happening out here. I don't. So, you can see it in erase mode, just not in draw mode. I am just as confused as you are. Here, at the end, I decided it's time to make references from the body I created. References to make life a little easier. References for the head, body, arms, hands, and shoes. That way, next time anyone feels like drawing it, it'd be a little easier. And this is what happens when you don't go in with references. You have a hard time figuring this stuff out. But then, if you don't have references or the kind that work for you, you simply have to make some. That's the end result I got here. It's not exactly the best, but it's better than nothing, and it's a little better than what I've seen out there. That's nothing but convoluted garbage, if you ask me.